do not realize that I am far better wrestler than you. I am, without a doubt, the finest wrestler in world wrestling today.
And that's William Regal. Is that correct?
Or Sir William Regal, or
Sir William Regal, yes.
Or Sir Stephen Regal, but not
Yes.
Mr. Electricity Stephen Regal.
A little bit different, too, Steve, I don't mind telling you.
Well, hey, you know, I've got something a little different, too.
Yeah.
Shout out to our commissioner. We haven't heard from him for a while, but shout out to him.
Yeah.
But yes, William Regal or Steve Regal. What a tremendous talent. I just always think he's underrated.
He is underrated.
I always loved his work ability. It's incredible work ability. I know there's a story that I've probably shared it before, but him and Robbie Brookside got in the ring down at the power plant, and they went about 45 minutes, didn't speak, and people thought they were shooting. And now I wasn't there, so just secondhand next day getting on a plane and people talking about it. We got to the town. I said, yeah, them, because they're English. They fucking worked together since they were probably 14, 15 years old,
Yeah.
And they can work. That's called working. Didn't mean to get excited there, but that's what it's called. It's called working. And William Regal could fucking work, man. He could wrestle, and he could shoot, and he could work. And I just always, no matter what it was, sir, with the Blue Bloods. And
I wonder what the poor people are doing. Who cares?
From that to with everyone he worked with, he always just had really, really good matches. Even the TV matches that he had that were like, you get a minute for your music, and 3 minutes of action. And he would make those interesting. At 3 minutes, whether he went over or not, it didn't matter. He shined, man. He shined.
The Queen was rather embarrassed. She couldn't honour me anymore in the New Year's honours list. That's rather embarrassing for her, isn't it?
Well, he was a master of something that's hard to do. One of my favorite things about him was when he looked at the crowd or looked at other people, he looked at them in a way that said, "You smell like shit." And it was clear on his face that he just you were repugnant and you stunk and you needed to step back from him.
Take your filthy, stinking hands off me. William, did you see the dirt under his fingernails?
Okay, so I'm going to diverge for a second. Heels, or guys who want to be heels, you need to go watch William Regal as a heel.
Why would you worship a man, who punches around like a 50-pence tart?
If you're not getting over as a heel, it's because you haven't watched William Regal. The fucking audience hated him, and he hated them, and he made it clear.
Then they had this guy Regal show up, and he had a pompous look, Lord Regal. They gave him a butler, and he came out with that attitude. And I could feel the crowd hated him. He got heat, like the good old days, just standing there with that smug look, because people believed right away, what an asshole. He was good, and he could wrestle. He was a wrestler.
And that was perfect. He was a great technical wrestler. He was a master of the European uppercut, which is
I love that.
Yeah, a move that is severely overlooked. He's also a hell of a lot younger than you think he is.
Yep.
In the 90s, he was still very young, and he's one of those guys who's like Arn Anderson. He's always looked 45.
Arn Anderson, you are an incredibly talented athlete, but on February the 20th, I'm going to prove my worth once more. God bless Queen Elizabeth II.
He always did. I always thought he was older than what he was when I knew him. But, he was a big fan, from my understanding, of the English comedy and the pantomime, if you will.
You Americans don't seem to have a lot of luck with the Japanese, do you?
No, now go away or I shall taunt you a second time.
But William Regal, he has a book, I think it's called Walking the Golden Mile. And I read it a few years ago. It's a really good book, and it talks about his early days. It's not a WWF book, sponsored, actually his book, and it's called Walking the Golden Mile, if I'm not mistaken. But look it up. It's a really good wrestling book talking about behind the scenes, how he got started over in England, all through WCW. I'm not so sure that it goes into the WWF. It may, but it's a really good book. But Steve Regal, William Regal, Sir William Regal, whatever. What a tremendous talent he was or is in his professional wrestling business. Because if you catch one of his talks or his interviews, I think he's on Stone Cold. He's got a good Twitter. I think at Real World, I can't remember exactly what it is, but he's got some really good stuff out there that he puts out there, especially for young, aspiring wrestlers. Anything he says, take it, listen to it, and run with it.
I always go to William Regal. William Regal is my go-to. William Regal helped train me when I was in Memphis, and so he's just a guy who has an infinite amount of knowledge and has just always been supportive. Yeah, he's a great guy, and he's great because he's not just a mentor to me, he's a mentor to a lot of guys backstage. If you ask Sheamus or Cesaro or anybody like that, like who's one of the most influential people in your career, almost all of them would say William Regal. So he's the guy that I go to.
And let me say this, man, you done brought it up. That European uppercut, I don't know that anyone done it any better. It was phenomenal. It really was.
Yeah, that was number 4, William Regal. And before we get into our top 3, I want to remind everybody, you can get Bobby's book, Pin Me, Pay Me, by going to tinyurl.com/blazebook1, and you get his other book, I Kicked Out on 2, The Education of a Wrestler, by going to tinyurl.com/blazebook2. It'll take you right to Amazon. I get a couple pennies for selling it to you, and Bobby gets a couple pennies for having it written. It's a great way for you to support the show and hear more of Bobby's stories.
Take it off the blood! Take it off the blood now!
I got lost on the road somewhere. Was it Texas or was it Kansas?